solve this problem, this is, again, what we call a two-step equation, meaning we need two principles of equality. Now, some of you guys are kind of doing these problems still and not really understanding what the crap is going on. You're just doing things to one side. I mean, I'm glad that you guys understand whatever you do to one side, you gotta do the other side, but you have to have a little bit of purpose with this, okay? So please take some time to think about what the crap it is that you're doing, because if you don't, then you're just gonna be making pretty much the same mistakes around, okay? Remember, this is kind of my setup for my principles of equality, okay? And so remember, the first thing I want on this is not to have anything added or subtracted to the 18x, or at least I don't want to have to see it. Now remember, I'm not really using the word canceling out because we're doing something with that plus 5. I just got to make it a value that I don't have to look at. And the only value that I can do that with is if I make that a plus 0 situation, okay? So how do you make a plus 5 a 0? Well, you'd have to subtract 5 there. But if you do it to one side, you will have to do it to the other side as well, okay? So what this does is 5 minus 5 is the plus 0 in red, and then the 18x, there was no other x's to combine it with, so we end up just dropping the 18x. Okay, so now this equals, on the right side of the equal sign, you got 5 minus 5, which is also 0. Like I said, I got the 18x now, and I'm adding a 0, and that's nice because now I don't have to look at that crap, okay? So now my new equation is 18x equals 0. What this means is this is just a simplified form of the original equation. I really didn't change the total value of the equation. All I did is change the way that it looks. So that plus 0 is still there. We just can't see it, and we don't want to see it, okay? Now, the next thing I would want to do here is to make the coefficient of x a 1. Right now, the coefficient is 18. Remember, the coefficient is a number that's being multiplied by the variable, in this case, x. And what I'm seeing here is that some of you guys are like, I need to cancel out the 18, which, again, is not really true. We're not canceling it out. And so I'm seeing some of this stuff. 18 minus 18, and then you say subtract 18 from both sides, okay? And while that is a noble effort, it's just not really what we want or need in this case. Because if we go back, what you're really looking at this point is you've written 18x and then minus 18 like this. If we go back a unit, 18x minus 18 cannot be combined because this is an x term and this is a constant term. You cannot combine x terms with constant terms. So that's why this does not work. Now, I am still going to deal with 18. It's just I'm going to use a different operation in order to make that a 1x, which is really the coefficient that I do want. I do want 1, not 18. So how do I make an 18 a 1? Divide by 18. But again, if you do it on one side, you got to do the other side. And so on the right side of that equal sign, I got 0 divided by 18, which is 0. Okay. Now, here's another mistake we're seeing on this one. Some students, they're getting the order of this mixed up. You have to do 0, that's your dividend, and then the 18 is the divisor. 0 divided by 18. This is not 18 divided by 0. That's not what it is. Okay, you have to make sure the order is correct. Otherwise, you will get the wrong answer if these are not ordered correctly for, at least for subtraction and division, okay? Now, what we saw in the last lesson was that what we do, now that we have what we think is the solution, 1x equals 0, now we go back to the original equation of 18x plus 5 equals 5. But now I'm going to replace the x with the value I think it is. That should make it a true statement, this equation a true statement. And so since I'm not sure it's true, I put a question mark over the equal sign, okay? This is the comparison. So now I got 18 times 0, which is 0. Still got the plus 5. This should equal 5. And again, we're seeing if this is true. But 0 plus 5 is 5. Okay, so we end up with 5 equals 5. This right here is a true statement. And since it is true, now I can box in my answer with confidence. And I'm going to leave it as 1x. Although you could just write it as x equals 0, and that would be fine. But again, I want to emphasize that the coefficient of x is a 1, not a 0, because some of you guys are still making that mistake. And again, this also, that was just showing you a common mistake that we're still seeing on these problems. All right, so 1x equals 0, that right there, again, that's what we call the solution to the equation because it makes the original equation a true statement. And just remember, this is the only value of x that would make this a true statement. Any other value of x that you replace in this original equation, it would make it a false statement.